Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy Passion Project Monday. I am Ben Teege. I am one of the artistic directors at Daleko Arts. I hope you're having a good night so far. Welcome to another Passion Project. For those of you who are new to Daleko Home Invasion, if you don't know what a passion project is, we here at Daleko Arts have an ensemble of 9 people, and they're fantastic and they're wonderful, and you know them from seeing them on stage or seeing them around the Prague Theater, but you might not know anything else about them. So we thought it might be fun to invite them every month on to the Delco Home Invasion stage to share a passion that they have that is outside of theater, something that they love doing that you might not know about, so we can learn something more about these wonderful people who are our ensemble. And this month, when we sent the email out, we were like, who wants to do the passion project this month? And our good friend and music director Tony Sofie raised his digital hand and said, I'm really into scary movies or horror films. And we thought, well, what better thing to throw out there in the month of October than that? So we contacted Tony and we said, "Hey, Tony, let's do this late October. Let's talk about some scary movies." So without any further ado, let's bring on the Soph dog, Tony Sofie. How's it going, Tony?
Hey Ben, it's going well.
Hey,
Thanks for yeah.
yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about one of my favorite things.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about, because I didn't really know this was a passion of yours until I think just earlier this year. So can you talk a little bit? Has it always been a passion of
Y-
yours, or is this a
Yeah.
new thing, or what?
No, I have loved scary movies since I was just a little kid. I remember, and I'm glad you brought up the dichotomy kind of between scary and horror movies because they're not necessarily the same. But I do remember just always being interested in both. The horror genre when I was a kid. Um, just like so my mom in the chat is probably going to fact check this story on me, but what I do remember is as a kid, kind of hiding around the corner from the living room while my brother watched the original Prom Night movie with Jamie Lee Curtis. And it's got an opening scene where they are playing hide and seek in a abandoned school. And it's super creepy. And I remember being so intrigued by it, and I couldn't see it. And I got caught and I got sent to my bedroom. And I'm pretty sure that that's why I love scary movies, just because they were kind of so taboo and they were intriguing, and I was just kept from them. Um, Luckily, I have older siblings, and significantly older siblings. And my brother Jack, who was in the house at the same time I was growing up, he's 7 years older than I am. So through him, I got some extra access to scary movies that I wouldn't have had if I didn't have a much older brother um, to be able to watch those.
Cool. Did so? You're a music director, obviously. You're a musical guy. Music is so big in your life. Does that like? Do you pay extra attention to the music in a horror film? Do you like? Is that like a big part of it for you, or does it not matter really?
Oh yeah, no, it absolutely matters, and I would say it's a fine line when we're talking about music in horror movies, especially horror movies, because it's all about atmospheric. But yes, horror movie and scary film scores are very much in my listening, um, like in my Spotify playlists. I love to have, and it's kind of creepy. Because I just have a film scores playlist in my Spotify. So I've got like Game of Thrones, and I've got Back to the Future, and all these great fun film score themes. And then all of a sudden it'll pop on with some music from Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's like, yeah, that's cool too. But yeah, so that is a big part of it. That can make or break a movie. Absolutely.
This is probably your story about when you were younger watching the scary movies reminded me. This is probably a good time to note that normally our passion projects, especially last week with the Patrick Disney passion project, it was very kid friendly. But tonight we're going to be talking about a lot of scary things and scary movies, horror films, and stuff like that. So it might be one for the super younger kids to skip. Or if they're into scary movies, then they can watch. It's not like we're still gonna keep it clean, but we definitely might be talking about some things or seeing some things that might be a little on the scary side. So just throwing that out there ahead of time. Tony, speaking of music, I found a YouTube clip when I was researching today of this guy he's a composer and he does a lot of horror film scores. And I thought it was really interesting, and I wanted to show you because you didn't know this was coming, but this is a little pop quiz. I want to know if you recognize this music, because I think you will, especially if you pay attention to the hint that he has a little tattoo on his wrist. And it's hard to see, but I think that is a hint. You might get it. So just check this out and see if you can find out.
Oh, yes. That's Nightmare on Elm Street. Nice.
Did I get you?
You did not.
Oh. All right. Jump scare number one, failure. Yeah, totally.
I think you might have gotten Samson, though, because he was intently looking at that tattoo.
Speaking of Samson, let's bring on Samson. How's it going, Samson?
How's it going, everyone?
Hey, did I get you? Did I get you to jump scare?
No, only because I was actually looking at the YouTube video and I was listening to this, so I heard the noise, which made me look away when the jump scare happened.
Okay.
So I saved myself. But I do jump much easier than Tony does. So.
All right. Well, at least I got Heather.
Yeah. Nice try, though. I mean, that was valiant effort.
Yeah, I got to try at least one of those before we sign off tonight. Tony, you want to explain why Samson's here?
Yes. So Samson and I last year. Samson actually tells the story better. I'll let Samson tell it because it started with his Facebook post that I replied to.
Yeah. So actually, last year at a Daleko Arts thing, when I was stage managing Ghost Tour, there's some downtime in between a couple of the scenes that I'm sitting around waiting, and I was just thinking about some of my favorite horror movies, and I was wondering how many like Halloween, Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Streets there were, and as I added them up, I realized there was exactly 31, including the new Halloween that came out last year, and I was like, why don't I watch a different one every day for the month of Halloween? And I got really excited about it, and I posted it. And a lot of people thought it was like, oh, that sounds really cool. And then Tony said, I'll actually watch those with you. I think I have them all. And we ended up watching them all last year. We tweet at each other. I'll know we start a tweet thread whenever we watch it. And then we just comment back and forth about everything from what we think's about to happen to stuff, random trivia we learned about the shows or franchises. Last year we did a kill count. So we counted how many times people, how many basically each monster or villain had a kill. This year we're doing jump scares, how many times we jump. I think I've jumped like 3 times as much as Tony. So
yeah, absolutely.
So we started last year and we kept doing it this year with some new franchises, and I think we're just going to keep doing it because we have a good time with it.
So Samson, what's your scary movie background? Like, has this been a thing you've been doing your whole life? Scary movies?
Yes, with a long break in between. So I grew up with my mom and brother, and they loved horror movies. My brother's 6.5 years older than me. So they used to watch horror movies. And by the time I was like 5 or 6, my brother was getting to the point where he was like almost 13, and he was already watching the Freddy Kruegers and the Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, that's the same thing. And Friday the 13th. And I used to always just try to stay up and watch them. And my mom would always, she kind of assumed that the first I'd get too scared and go away. So she kind of like tried to teach me a lesson, and it backfired. And I just started watching all of them with them. One of my earliest movie memories, or not actually seeing it, was when Freddy 6 came out, which was a 3D one. The one of the parks near where I lived in New Hampshire, kind of similar to like Valley Scare here, was doing a 3D viewing of it, and my brother was going because he was at the time I think he was probably like 13 or 14, but he had some friends that he could go with, and I really really wanted to go. My mom would not let me go, which nowadays I realize why she didn't let her 6-year-old kid go to see Freddy Krueger in the theaters. But at the time, it didn't make any sense to me, and I was like, "But I get to watch it at home." So I watched tons of horror movies all throughout my childhood and into my teens, and then probably the early 2000s I broke off a bit just because I moved around the country a bit and didn't go to see as many movies. But I've been trying to play catch up. I've probably seen about half the movies that we've watched throughout the 2 months so far. So a lot of it is nostalgia, and a lot of it is new films for me.
And so, how do you guys pick what you're gonna watch for the? You call it the October Watchathon? Is that right? That's that's it. It's been dubbed the Watchathon, October Watchathon. Yeah, yeah, right, right. Do you guys just so what did you start with? You started with Friday the 13th. You said.
And there, once we finished Nightmare on Elm Street, we did the crossover Freddy versus Jason, of course. And then that led to the reboots. Both Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th have reboots. So we watched those. And then finally, we ended the month with Halloween. And one of the nice parts about the timing of it last year was that we actually went and saw Halloween at the Uptown Theater. We saw the late night viewing of that on the night that we were scheduled to watch that in our um, in our calendar. So the original, yes, the original 1978 Halloween. So that worked out really nicely. This year we went on to choose, and actually what I love about what we did this year is we ended up with a lot of smaller franchises. So now we have, we started with The Purge was our first franchise this year. There's 4 movies there. Then we went into the combined Alien and Predator franchises. So starting with Predator, into the crossover movies, and then into all the Alien movies. And now we are on to the Tremors movies, which this is the first franchise in both of our watchathons that is completely new to me. I've seen none of these movies. All of last year's franchises I'd seen, with the exception of some of the Rob Zombie Halloween movies or whatever, I'd seen all of those. This year I've seen probably about 2/3 of them, but it's really fun to now discover a new franchise. And I was skeptical about Tremors, and we might talk about Tremors later, but I was skeptical about it for a lot of reasons, but I'm loving it. It's great.
So it's how do you okay? So in my mind, Predator and Alien is those are more sci-fi to me. Am I wrong? Or do you guys just
No.
go for whatever is, scary? Doesn't matter.
Well, so I think we both have answers to this. I guess for Alien, I'll start. Yes, I would say Predator for sure is more of a action franchise maybe than a horror or scary. But Alien, the original Alien movie, was a psychological extranet or supernet or bleh. It was a horror movie. It was written to be a horror movie, psychological and alien horror movie.
And I think too, when you're looking at genres, horror seems to be a genre that really it's like a dominating tag. If you can have like a horror sci-fi, but the horror seems to bleed through, as opposed to sci-fi. A lot of times I feel is a more like submissive tag, with the aspect of there's not a lot of movies so many sci-fi movies you think of as something else. You look at something like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, it's really a sci-fi movie, but it's kind of more like a psychological movie at the same time. And the sci-fi sometimes takes the back seat to that. But the horror, there's such a wide range of the types of horrors that there is. Everything, from the psychological to the jump in your face type stuff. So we are a little lenient with that. We don't want to be really gatekeepers for what we're considering. We just more look at franchises that we have interest in either rewatching or watching or kind of enjoying the season with.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that really comes down to I have the Nightmare box set. Yes, Toby.
Nice,
Wait, hold
Toby.
on, hold on. Is it? Wait, hold on. Is it this one, Toby,
Ooh.
with the 7 DVDs?
Oh man,
Have
that's hardcore.
because that is the one.
Is that the one, Tobes? We'll let you know.
But I mean, it kind of comes back to, yeah, what is a scary movie, or what, the horror seems to be a very subtype of scary movies, and I think it gets a bad rap sometimes just because it can be like Samson said, it can be classified in so many different ways. You've got sci-fi horror, you've got psychological horror, you've got supernatural horror, demonic possession, but that so some people, what I guess I would say is when you look at the overall scary slash horror movie canon, there really are, and Tremors proves this, franchises for everybody. Scream is another good one. Things like that are scary movies. They're technically horror. They fall into that horror umbrella, but they're not, it's not the slasher film that you think about with the Friday the 13th or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, things like that.
Is it just me, or does it seem like there's a higher percentage of crappy horror movies than any other genre?
Oh, I disagree.
Really?
Yeah.
It just seems like so many times their focus is scaring you, and they don't care about a lot of the other things.
I think that's true in a lot. I mean, you look at some sci-fi, some lower budget sci-fi, and a lot of their emphasis ends up being on what device or what sci-fi element they can show you, and less about what the story is. So I think every genre has that. I think you see maybe more of them in horror because they can be done. It's easier to do a cheap scare than it is to do a cheap, ray gun. So you probably just get some low budget things that are more willing to do that. But I think every genre has kind of that range in it.
Yeah, and I think it's just more evident based on scale. I think there's a lot less horror movies overall than there are sci-fi movies, and there are action movies, and
And you think that's a cost thing? It's just cheaper to make them?
I think it's I think there's a perception that there's not an audience for it sometimes. But no, I think cost actually is what Samson said. Cost is what actually keeps the scary movie, the horror genre, or the horror movie industry, I think, going, is the fact that they can do movies well with a good story, with some good scares, for cheap if they want to. I mean, you look even some of the movies we watch in these big mainstream franchises that we're watching, and some of them were done very, very cheaply, and are some of the best in the overall franchise.
Tremors 1 is a great example of that. I mean, what did we look at the budget of that? It was about 10 million.
10 million, yeah. Film. And then I think it dropped to 6 for 2, 4.
Down to 4 billion for 2, or 4 million for 2, yeah. But that was a directed DVD. But even 10 million, I mean, Tremors 1, it's a good, fun movie. I mean, and you compare that to some of we're comparing that to like Alien Resurrection, which was a $70 million film. And you look at that kind of ultra sci-fi Joss Whedon script that's the 4th in a franchise. Compare that to a really low budget, stick Kevin Bacon in a cowboy hat and out in the middle of Nevada, and that was much more effective.
Chuck wants to know, where do you guys stand on the modern Midsummer or It Follows kind of movies?
Personally, I loved them both. Both those movies are up there for me.
And I've not seen those two specific movies, but
It Follows is it's probably in my top 5.
It's on my list. I need to watch that one for sure.
Which one is It Follows? That's the one.
It's the STD curse, essentially.
Yes. Yeah, those are both very, very interesting movies. Amanda and I watched Midsummer this summer, and it freaked us out. That's a crazy flick. Very crazy.
I saw it in theaters, and then I saw it again earlier this summer. Me and Whitney watched it, and there's some aspect, at least in the theaters, that I was actually having. I was getting nauseous, and it wasn't because of the gruesome moments. It was the camera angles and stuff. I mean, that's I think an intention of the film. But I was there at moments where I had to like stop looking at the screen because it was just dizzying with what they did. And I don't know if I was overly excited about that, but I also realized that was just a kind of subjective experience for me, so I didn't hold that against it. But I thought the movie, there was a lot of aspects I really loved. It Follows, though, yeah, it's one of my that movie, just the idea of seeing people try to walk, it could be anyone walking towards you and not sure if that's it, like every single person. I think for like a week after that, anytime I was walking on the street at night, there was just this creepy thing of like, is that person following me? No, I'm cool.
Right.
Okay.
Have you guys
Yeah.
seen Baghead?
No,
No, I know of it. I have not seen it.
I'm gonna have to write that. I feel like I'm gonna have to take notes on movies to watch.
To check it out.
Heather Meyer, if she's still here, also has an excellent suggestion for a scary movie. I'd like her to put that one in the comments if she could.
A suggestion for one she wants to write?
No, one that she likes and that I'm excited to watch, that I've recently added to my own list.
Heather, throw it in the chat, please. Thank you. Hey, I pulled out some horror movie stills. Do you guys? I wanted to try and quiz you guys. You wanna see how good you are at picking out a still from a horror flick?
I always like winning. Yeah.
Right.
I'm gonna agree with Tony for once, and he's definitely gonna beat me in this. But let's give it a go.
All right, everybody in the chat, you can pipe in too if you think you know, because I have a feeling I'm gonna stump both these guys. All right, here's number one.
Do we just answer if we get it?
Yeah.
Friday the 13th.
Okay. So that one was easy. That was just me testing you. All right. All right.
Although, Tony, is that Friday the 13th the end of Friday the 13th or the beginning of Friday the 13th too?
It's the same, Samson.
No, they reshot some stuff for the beginning of 2 that actually shows her coming out of the water, and they like wrap her around the.
Oh yeah, after and then they get her into the ambulance and stuff. Oh yeah, but this part was filmed as
from the first one.
The original.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because this is right before something happens.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Psycho.
Yeah.
Or not Psycho. Yeah, Psycho.
Yeah, Psycho. Yep. All right, on to number 3.
The image looks really familiar. I can't remember what movie it is though.
Yeah, I'm stumped. Anybody? Yeah.
It looks late 80s by the shot, the quality.
It is Saw, the original.
Oh,
which is not the 80s.
Of course.
Yeah.
Saw. Yep. All right, let's move on to number 4.
What?
I'm afraid to get too close to the screen, so I'm afraid Ben's gonna do another.
This is like Pan's Labyrinth, is it?
I was gonna say Pan's Labyrinth. Is it?
Yes, Pan's Labyrinth.
Which,
Good.
I haven't. That's another one. It's on my list. I haven't actually seen it, but I really want to.
It's great. Yeah, I love that movie. Although I haven't seen it for a really long time. Here, this is the last one for this round, and this is actually one of my favorites, but it's an oldie.
Oh my. Yep. I do not know this one.
Samson, any ideas on this one?
Not at all.
It goes back to like, I think this was maybe 1920s. I want to say late 20s. This is a Todd Browning movie called The Freaks, or I think it's just called Freaks.
Oh yes, I've heard of it.
Yeah, I checked this one out because I saw Stephen King once. He had a quote that this was the only movie that really freaked him out, scared him. Yes, Whitney got it. It is kind of offensive. But that's kind of what makes it.
There's a lot of offensive happening then. So.
And what makes it so like weird, it's so macabre because they're using like actual people that they would consider like circus freaks. So like the guy in the photo is literally just a head and a torso, like for real. And they have a bunch of different types of people, and it's a very creepy movie. But anyway.
And silent movie? Is it? Or
Nope.
does it? Oh, it does have.
Yep, it's not silent. It's that's the Gooble Gobble we accept you. Have you ever heard that?
No.
That's how it's weird. You have to check it out. It's very strange.
I added it to my list for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got another 5, but we'll hold off. We'll save those for a little bit later. What makes what makes a scary movie for you guys? Like, what makes a movie as scary as it could possibly be?
It's a good question, and it was my question. It was the one that I put forward for us to talk about, and I'm really interested, hopefully, to hear some people in the chat talk about what makes a scary movie for them. I guess for me, I'm looking for. I'm a sucker for jump scares. At the expense of story, sometimes I have to admit it. Um, I I watch horror movies specifically to be scared. So I like the jump scares. I also, one of my that's good. I twitched.
Okay, good. Twitch, we're making progress. Then we're making progress.
But yeah, also like one of my, and this just goes back to that whole all the subgenres that we have within the scary movie world. Like I love ghost movies. The one franchise that I forgot to mention we're finishing this month with is Poltergeist, and even though I've seen the first 3 already, and I've never seen the remake, and I'm excited for that. I love those kind of the supernatural, spirits, paranormal activity, that kind of stuff.
I got Kathy.
Yes, you did. What about you, Samson? What is your?
Well, we talked about this. I really love lore and storytelling, but there has to be a consistency to it. I'm willing to like believe any convention, but once you break that convention, Tony and I had a long discussion about Final Destination 3 and my upsetness over a 2-second part of the movie and how it breaks the logic and how for a while it ruined that movie for me. I'm getting over it. But my favorite horror, I'm okay with jump scares, but I feel I like them to be earned. And I mean, my favorite, hands down, scary movie, I'd have to say is Scream. And I think because that did such a good job of having scary parts. It was also really meta, which I love that. But it also, the first time I saw it, it's one of those things that you don't see. They give you enough information to solve everything, but you'd still never get, most people, I didn't get to the right answer by the time, it gets to the end of the movie. I like it when they give you the stuff to solve it and you don't get it still until it's too late. Mm-hmm. That movie hands down is my favorite, and that kind of genre where it plays in a little bit with slasher, but also knows it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Some horror movies take themselves too seriously, and then I can't take it seriously. I like a little bit more of the tongue in cheek that they have.
Yeah, because that absolutely, well, and this kind of goes back to something we were talking about earlier before we started airing, which was the difference between Tremors 4 and Tremors 5 that we just watched. And the difference for me was that Tremors 4 didn't take itself as seriously as Tremors 5 did. And which isn't to say that Tremors 5 either was like super like, we're going to be serious and we're not going to make jokes. There's going to be no one-liners because Jamie Kennedy is in it. So of course that is in there. But Tremors 4 was just more, and I said this like the 5th time, Samson, I've had this conversation in the last 3 days. It was just more fun. Tremors 4 was more fun to me. And that can play into it too. And another thing we talked about, well, and we're spending a lot of time talking about franchises, but there's a lot of great one-offs, in addition to the ones we had like in the quiz there. But things like one of the scariest movies, and don't quote me on this because I've only seen it once, it may not hold up, but not necessarily the scariest movies, but a movie that I thought was very scary that I didn't expect it to be was What Lies Beneath. I don't know if anybody ever saw that movie with, it was Robert Zemeckis' movie with Michelle Pfeiffer and can't remember who the guy was.
Harrison Ford, right?
Harrison Ford. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that movie, like there were great jump scares in that movie that I didn't expect because that wasn't the kind of movie I thought it was going to be. And it really,
it was ghosty, right?
It was absolutely ghosty. And I love that too. going into that area of horror.
Toby says, yeah, he likes the things that could be real potentially, like the paranormal activities, Blair Witch, and
Mm.
Blair Witch came out at the perfect time because it was just when like social media, not social media, but kind of like internet, where I mean, and at least for me, when that was that 96 or so.
Yeah, yep.
That sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been in sixth grade, so it was at that point where like I still believed it was actually a real, you know, or I didn't know if it was, you know, because there was kind of that whole mystery where they're like, oh, it was real footage, and like, was it really? And Blair Witch freaked me out for a long time. Someone else I think said The Ring. The Ring freaked me out.
Yes.
A lot.
Yeah.
As did The Grudge. I haven't seen the new one yet, but
the whole coming out of the TV thing, yeah, that was too much for me. I couldn't do it. Casey likes Sixth Sense, Scream, Freddy movies.
Absolutely. Yes, Casey with the Freddy movies. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sixth Sense was another one I really liked, like Scream, that I didn't see it coming until like, or sometimes I even like it better if I do figure it out, but like the second beforehand. Like I think that's what happened when I saw Sixth Sense. I actually knew, I figured out the Bruce Willis bit like right before the ring fell type of thing, and then I'm like, wait, is this it? Oh my, yeah. Because then it kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, What Lies Beneath was very Hitchcockian. I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely. It was that. It had psychological horror, which I mean, that is the scariest type of horror. I think you can if it's done well, absolutely. But it had the psychological. It added the ghost, some of that supernatural. Yeah, that What Lies Beneath was really well done, and I think is an underrated, underappreciated movie. Having seen it only once, and it may not hold up. I need to go back and watch it.
I agree. They did the other thing that always gets me, where they cast somebody who is typically a hero. This is a spoiler alert, but yeah, they cast somebody who's typically a hero in the villain role. So then they did the old switcheroo at the end, and your mind is blown because you're expecting him to be the hero. I agree, Casey. Blair Witch also made me dizzy. It must be a genetic thing.
I'm with you on that one. That one was just, I was over it 5 minutes in.
Yep. The Grudge. Toby says The Grudge was scary.
Yeah. So The Grudge.
What's The Grudge again? Which one is that?
Well, the American was Sarah Michelle Gellar in the American remake of The Grudge.
Yeah, it was 2000. What? 2, 3, somewhere around there, early aughts.
It was like the next big Japanese import after The Ring.
Yeah.
Okay.
That gave me in theaters probably the scariest jump scare of my life when I saw The Grudge. Because when I went, and it was in the first 30 seconds, I think, I went to the movie and I was actually, it was kind of one of those, I'd just been up like the night before. I don't remember why. I just didn't get any sleep. And I went to the movies and the previews were on, and I fell asleep. And then the movie started, and I like opened my eyes just as one of the characters is like looking in the attic for something, and something that I think it's the first time you see like the creepy thing and you hear the noise. And I woke up probably like 3 seconds before that happened. And it was in that still phase of like, wait, where am I? And then that happened, and I think I screamed. And just like everyone in the theater looked at me like, the movie's been going on for 30 seconds and you're already screaming. This is not a good sign. It was quite, I was actually like, I think I was on a date and the person was just like, just like not even like looking at me anymore. It was pretty funny.
Hey, thanks, Nicole. Have you guys, this side.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen these yet? Brand new. They got the little, can you see the little orange? It's got a little tint of orange in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get it in focus here. There we go. Oh, okay. That's the last one. I won't do it anymore.
It is not the last one. We're not falling for
that. Favorite movie franchises. What do you got?
Okay. Favorite franchise. See, I'm bad at making these kinds of decisions. I can't, because I tend to subcategorize things. But if I just had to go with my gut, I would say Nightmare on Elm Street, because that was the first like franchise that, as a kid, I discovered. I mean, I knew Friday the 13th, it was a thing, and I saw parts of it and I knew what it was about. But Nightmare on Elm Street just caught me right away, just between that idea that someone can kill you in your dreams, that just the all of the visual things that Wes Craven did with that movie. Um, and then I think, and I'm saying franchise, so I do have to somehow work into the other non-original movies. Um, I think just because those were the ones that when I was growing up. In fact, that was one of the things that first made me think about this passion project, and I wish I still had these. I used to collect like the old Fangoria magazines and all the different scary movie magazines that used to come out back then, because that was like the heyday of Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street franchises, around the time of like Dream Master, Dream Child, Friday the 13th, 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. So those are so wrapped up, and especially Nightmare, in just my coming of age, that I would have to say Nightmare is my favorite.
Yeah, it was pretty brilliant to make a franchise about not being able to go to sleep. Like when you go to sleep, you
Right.
then the monster gets you. Like
And
that.
and what I love about the original premise of it, and this is something that maybe we can talk a little bit more if we get there, that keeps coming in the back of my mind, is what the subtext of horror movies, and that one being that kids paying for their parents' sins. Um, there's another really great theme in there with I lost that one, but yeah, no, Nightmare for sure was just part of, yeah, my childhood. So
Samson.
It's funny because Tony and I like are infamous between anyone who hangs out with us about how we argue and disagree about like the most like banal points. But yeah, a lot of these things we just agree with. Like Nightmare on Elm Street is always been my favorite. I'd say Scream is probably the one that um, has aged the best, just because it's probably a crisper, better movie and franchise. But as far as one that like nostalgic that I'm like hooked on, yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street definitely. I remember watching it. Like I said, I remember crying as a kid not being able to see the sixth one in theater. Which after rewatching the sixth one last year, my mom was doing me a favor. Um, but but still, that I mean, I used to go around. That's the thing. My mom, as much as she used to love watching them, gets freaked out by a lot of the stuff, and I would always either do Red Rum, They're Here, which is a Poltergeist reference, or I would sing the like 1, 2, Freddy's After, and just do that. I would just like come around the corner and like as a little kid do that stuff to my mom. I have no idea how she didn't like kick me out or something. I would do that as like a little
awful.
7-year-old terror.
If I did that to my mom, I wouldn't still be alive.
I would just like she wouldn't even know I'm in the room, and I'd just be like, "They're here," and she'd be like, "Get," like yeah.
That's horrible.
I probably took years off of her life.
Favorite movie franchises? Put it in the chat, you guys.
Um,
Yep.
Well, while we're on here too, I did want to just point out too, outside of franchises, my actual favorite horror movie of all time, or scary movie of all time, is The Descent. And I know I've talked to some people who may be on the chat about this one in the past. I love that movie. It plays to all of my fears, like biggest fears. Like I'm a little bit claustrophobic, and that movie is about spelunking and getting lost inside a cave and going through these tiny little, I've watched that movie, I would say probably in almost into the double digits, maybe a dozen times, possibly. And I still jump at some of the scary moments because it's just so well made, and
Yeah.
it just speaks to me and what freaks me out the most.
That movie was so scary, and yes, Amanda agrees. She hated that movie because it was so scary. It was didn't it have different endings too?
Yes,
They
it
made like
had.
several things, didn't they?
It premiered in Great Britain, and it had the ending that it has, or that the original filmmaker wanted, and they played that for American audiences, and they're like, "That's too grim. We hate that."
Yeah.
And so they had to add a tag to the American release of it so that it had a slightly more upbeat ending.
I remember that. Have you seen the sequels? Tony?
I've seen Descent too. It actually, I stayed away from it for a long time because I was scared it was going to suck a lot.
Yeah, did it? I haven't seen it.
It wasn't awful.
Okay.
I think it did an okay job. They do one stunt casting that I just really, well, it's not even a secret. They bring Juno back from the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen Descent, because she's back in the sequel.
I haven't seen any of them yet, so I'm excited to. Everyone's saying
and
this is scary.
I think there's just the two, right, of the Descent. I don't think they ever made a third.
Yeah, I think you're right. We've got a vote for Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
Joan likes anything Alfred Hitchcock for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Someone, I think Casey said The Birds earlier. They're Hitchcock. Great. Like just the ultimate way of, and he was so brilliant at being able to create a scary movie without the technology that we have today that Samson loves so much.
Right.
Yes. And Whitney, The Shining.
That's one of my favorites too. The Shining just gets me. I no matter how many times I watch it, it freaks me out every time.
And you could kind of consider it a franchise. I mean, there is a sequel.
There is.
The Doctor Sleep is out now. So.
Oh yeah.
And the best part about those is the movies and the books are so different from each other. They're basically two different, they're two different franchises completely.
Well, Whitney and I have talked about that too. One of her least favorite things about the book is one of my favorite, the animals, the lawn animals. So.
Chuck's scariest movie is Cats. I didn't see it.
I just watched. Actually, it's funny that you brought that up, Chuck, because I just watched Cats yesterday, and it wasn't as awful as I thought it was going to be.
The bar was pretty low for you by then, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, for sure. And
that actually plays into a lot of the movies that Tony and I watch. There are some of them that we go into with such low expectations that, I mean, a few of these Tremor sequels, I think, have that, where we just walk away and we're like, this is great. When really, if we compare it to other movies, they're not great. Right. But we go in, we've set our bars in some of these films.
Well, and you kind of have to take a franchise at its own level. You know, you can't judge Tremors against, I don't know, Aliens. Well, those are actually kind of comparable, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
At a certain point, there's definitely apples and oranges comparisons as far as budget and popularity. And, you know, I think Alien versus Predator, for better or worse, stayed popular for so long because of the graphic novels that came out of it, that then turned into movies and then brought in some new fans into the franchise who then came in and tried to ruin the franchises.
Ever heard of this one? Masters of Horror. Japanese TV. Anything Japanese I would stay away from in terms of horror because they know what they're doing.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about The Ring and Grudge and yeah.
They will
they're so scary
every time.
And they that's just their culture goes to so part of their culture that they're really good at making it freaky.
Want to do another round of movie stills?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I have to make a comeback here.
All right, here we go. Chat, if you know it in the chat, throw it in there because these guys aren't going to know. I'm going to stump them on all of these. Here's the first one. It's newish.
Oh, Bird Box?
Yes, Bird Box.
I actually haven't seen it, but I was about to be like, this looks like something from Bird Box.
Oh yeah, with the eyes. Yep. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, that one was creepy for a little while. I thought it lost its mojo. All right, number 2. Here we go. This one you'll probably get.
Oh, that's Poltergeist.
Poltergeist.
Yes, that scene freaked me out for years. The clown thing with the puppet, and he fights comes out of the bed, underneath the bed. Come on.
It's one of the things they kept for the remake too. They still have a really creepy clown part in there. So
really, well, it was so scary. That thing scared me for years.
Between that and it's why still clowns are just no.
Yeah, it's a big no for me too.
I mean, clowns are just wrong on lots of levels, but yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah.
All right, number 3.
I don't know that. No, I don't know that one at all.
Children of the Corn?
Anybody? Nope. Anybody in the
No.
chat know
I
this
thought was
one?
actually going to be my guess too, was Children of the Corn, but yeah. Nope, I don't have.
Let's wait just a few seconds. I want to see if anyone in the chat gets this
La-
one.
last guess.
For the
People
latency.
Under the Stairs?
Nope.
I
Nope.
can't remember if they burned the house at the end.
This was I want to say late 80s, early 90s.
I'm gonna be really mad if I've seen it.
Or maybe it's later than that. Nope, not Carrie Joan. I think maybe it was mid 90s. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Starring Tom Cruise.
Interview with the Vampire?
Yes, Interview with the
I was
Vampire.
going to say,
Oh.
the clothing looks very Interview with the
Well,
Vampire, but I couldn't remember
And I
the
kept
scene.
looking at the building going, it looks like a plantation.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
yeah, no. And I have seen that. I hated it, but yeah, I have seen it.
Yep.
There's
Right.
nothing scary about Interview with a Vampire.
Well, but it's you wouldn't.
Yeah. It's about sexy vampires, not scary vampires.
You don't think Twilight is scary?
Oh, gross.
It is scary, yeah.
Never seen, never read, never will.
All right, how about this one?
I don't know, but I really want to. It sort of looks like, I don't know, The Hills Have Eyes or something like that.
I feel like The Hills Have Eyes. They were all out like in the desert.
Right. And it wouldn't have been real people with them. They would have been mannequins sitting in the chairs.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I forgot about that part.
This is some might say not. I mean, it's definitely trying to be scary, but I think a lot of people were like, no, not so much. I'm gonna give it a second to see if anyone in the chat knows this one. Toby's got no clue.
Are there any actors in it that we might?
Yes, Mark Wahlberg stars in it.
Oh, the Happening?
Yes, The
Oh, yeah,
Happening.
about the bees dying? Okay.
This is The Happening. This is the one where the trees were killing everybody. Yes.
Yeah. I saw that in theaters.
Yes, Nicole. Shyamalan.
Yeah, I think I did too.
Shyamalan. How do you
See,
say
M. Night
his name?
Shyamalan only had good movie. He only had one good movie.
He did. He really did. I mean, after The Sixth Sense, it was okay. It just got progressively.
Yeah, progressively. What was the alien one though? Signs. That one was okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
Harsh, Whitney. That's harsh. All right, last one. Here we go.
Nosferatu.
Yes. Have you guys seen that?
Yes.
Have you?
Years ago in film class.
It was something, I have never done it, but I've always kind of wanted to foray into those really old, scary and the original monster movies. And so that was the first one that I finally got into watching. And yeah.
A 90-minute silent film. I mean, that's you gotta buckle up for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. And what's great, watch that, but then, and I cannot remember the name of the movie. There was a movie that was made about the making of Nosferatu.
Oh, really?
I think I've seen that too. I think
I'm blanking on the name right.
One of my film classes.
And that was excellent too. I think Quiet Place.
Quiet Place.
That's another relatively silent film. I was just thinking that when Tony said silent film too, yeah.
And they made a sequel.
I haven't seen a sequel yet.
Oh, are they? Or they made it already?
Yep.
I think.
I don't know if it's out yet. I think it either just came out or it was postponed. But they've been making another one.
Yeah, that one. I mean, it ended up being good. I think the only reason it was as popular as it was because of the cast or because of who was starring in it.
Mm-hmm. But then I agree. I ended up liking it more than I expected. I thought it was going to be, but I walked away.
Well, and it was also right around the same time as Bird Box, sort of. And I think Bird Box was a big disappointment to a lot of people. So Quiet Place maybe looked better in that light.
Maybe.
I mean, not to say it was bad. I liked it, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they definitely had a similar feel, but yeah, interesting stuff. We're getting some good stuff in the chat here. Where did we
Yeah, I'm excited to go back afterwards and like
What's
look
the
at what.
one where the woman keeps knocking on the door? Oh, is that the one where what's the one with the family that has the bags over their heads and they take over another family? Is that what you're talking about, Amanda? Do you guys know what I mean?
The one where they
Did I dream that movie?
I think I know which one you're talking about. Is that like these people break into their house and
Yes.
I haven't actually seen it, but I know of it.
I mean, there's a movie called Tamara, 2005.
Might have been that
I just found it on the Google.
on the Googs.
Is that the movie, Amanda? That you did you see the movie Tamara?
It starts after a wedding reception. That's Amanda's creepiest. Whatever that mystery film is, she hates it.
You know, and one of the other genres that I love of scary movies is the ones that are made truly to just be like over the top, kind of comedic satirical ones. And this was the other one that just popped into my head, and I can't. It was called like Hugo or Howard, or it's like a guy's name.
Willard?
Oh, Willard. No, not Willard. Not Willard. No,
Okay.
That's not a comedy.
I haven't seen it. I just knew it was kind of.
Whitney knows. It's something with Liv Tyler. What was that movie called? Anyway, we'll figure it out. But yeah. Oh, yep. Whitney got it. The Strangers.
Oh, it was The Stranger. Okay, I kind of thought that might be the one we were talking about, but
yeah, that was creepy. This is a different kind of genre. This is sort of like the comedy, the like horror comedy, Shaun of the Dead, sort of a Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, yes. Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin of the Woods.
Sort of those where they mix the two genres together. Those are fun. Those are very, very fun.
Well, and especially with Cabin, where it just becomes so meta, ultra meta by the end. And what I mean, and that was just genius getting like Sigourney Weaver in to that one, and yeah.
Well, and Bradley Whitford as the one of the guys was just spot on, and yeah.
Yeah, he's great in everything.
I also really loved like Idle Hands. I remember that movie.
Yes, I was thinking about that earlier, starring Devon Sawa from Final Destination.
Mm-hmm. That was always a good one. And had Seth Green was in it.
Yes.
I don't even remember. I just remember one point that the hand like grabs the cat and throws it out the window, and
that's my favorite part of the movie. No, right up there with Idle Hands too. There was Jennifer's Body. Remember Jennifer's Body with Megan?
Actually, Whitney and I just watched it a month or so ago, and we really liked it. Yeah.
Oh, you hadn't seen it before? Yeah, I remember seeing when it came out. There was I can't remember who was in it that I really wanted to see, the secondary female lead, but yeah, that's a good one, Jennifer's Body.
But yeah, Megan Fox was the main kind of Jennifer in it, at least.
What's a horror movie that you guys are ashamed you have not seen?
Oh, there are probably lots of them.
Yeah.
Do you have one that sticks out that you're like, I haven't seen this and I'm afraid to tell people?
And
probably something for me, probably anything pre-1977. I've only seen a handful of them. I've seen most of the Hitchcock films like once, but not necessarily all of them.
I think I've seen most of the scary Hitchcock films. The scarier, The Birds, North by Northwest, and
I've never seen Misery. That's one everyone always yells at me whenever I tell them I haven't seen. I've never seen Misery.
You should check that one out. That one's good. I've never seen Carrie.
What?
Yeah, I need to see Carrie.
They're all gonna laugh at you, Ben, in chat. They're all gonna laugh at you.
Right. I do know the references.
I will say, for as much as I am a Stephen King fan and I love Stephen King's books and a lot of the movies, I am woefully behind on a lot of those movies, like Cujo, Christine. I never saw those.
I I have a feeling that maybe that's what one of these years is going to be, is we're just going to have a Stephen King.
Yes.
You could definitely
Because
do that.
and especially because like we could easily fill up a month because there's stuff like The Langoliers was like a made for cable movie
I used
of
to love that movie as a kid, but the graphics, I've tried to look at it now, they are so bad. The CG
yeah.
of the
I,
little Langoliers coming across the sky.
I remember trying to watch it once and it's like, this is bad, especially because I had loved that story. And when I read the story, it was so visual in my head
Hmm.
that I knew exactly what that looked like in that universe. And to see the movie and I was like, oh, this is cheap. This is a bad made for cable. But yeah.
I'm excited for The Stand to come out, and that's something too. Is a lot of good horror is actually moving towards miniseries, and I mean, you look at American Horror Stories, great. What they've been doing on Netflix with Hill House and Bly Manor, two very different approaches for kind of the same creative team. Or just, oh, I just finished Bly Manor. I don't know if any of you. I won't ruin anything because it's still new enough that we shouldn't spoil it. But it's a slow burn, but it was really great.
I'm excited for that one. I just read someone else commenting on that today, and I was like, oh yeah, I need to see that. Um, yeah, but agreed with that trend of, and I think especially when we're talking about adaptations of scary books, uh,
Hmm.
I think people finally realized you can't do them justice in a movie. What is that? Watcher in the Woods. Ooh, I've
Never
not
seen
seen
it.
that.
Never seen it.
But you even see like for it, they realized they had to make it two movies. The original It adaptation was a miniseries because they knew they couldn't tell that story. Stand is such an epically big story, a large universe. That, yeah, I think this is going to be really great to see what they do with it in a TV series.
Did you
Um,
see the original Stand, which was I remember watching it on TV. It was a 4 night
I did,
event
I
with
didn't.
Rob Lowe is in it and Molly Ringwald, and it was good for when it came out. I don't know if it holds up, but I'm very, very excited about this next one. Have you
Yeah.
read The Stand and it?
No, and that it I have read. I read that when I was like 13, 14 years old. And so yes, but the Stand I haven't, and that's why I never watched the miniseries or any other adaptations of it because I just always wanted to read it first.
Yeah, Babadook.
Oh,
Babadook.
Babadook. See, that's another one. And I'm weird this way. There's so many scary movies that people are like, "This is my scariest movie." Babadook is so scary, and I'm like, "That wasn't that bad." I mean, I didn't think it was that scary. Same
I
with
liked it. I don't know if it was the scariest for me either. I
yeah,
know.
Rich
Uh,
was the same. Like, I never thought that was a scary movie.
did Tony, have you seen Lights Out, either the short or the long one?
No.
Oh, I'll send you the short. It's on YouTube. It won a bunch of short film festivals and they turned it into a full movie. But as far as creepy jump scare type things, I mean, it just starts off with them. This woman turns the light off and she sees like a shadow and she turns the light back on and it's gone. So it's like this monster
Oh,
exists
yes.
when light isn't there.
I love
Um,
that. Love
and
it.
it's terrifying. I'll send you the link for that one later. But if anyone searches Lights Out on YouTube, you can watch the short film. I think it's like 3 minutes and it'll terrify you.
Yikes. Whitney says, do not do it.
Not
She,
Lights Out.
she does not want you to check that out. Hey, if
Yeah.
people want to follow what you guys are doing, how should they do that? Can they do
So
that?
I have, they absolutely can.
Yes, absolutely.
It would be on Twitter is probably the best place. I have essentially what we do each night I have a separate Twitter just for this. It is just Samson without a P, all of that's spelled out like that, Samson without a P. And I basically put the title up and then I tag Tony and Tony and I just talk back throughout the thread. So it's kind of a thread that you can follow. And you can even go back if you watch a movie that we watched and see everything that we said because it's all on one thread rather than having to follow a bunch of random tweets or anything of the sort. So
And you guys
uh,
let everyone know like what you're gonna watch next, what's upcoming.
yeah, and I was I don't know if we've ever announced our schedule, but I
No.
do post about it on Facebook and show with a picture and stuff like that. So
And
um,
absolutely, you could probably just do a pinned tweet saying what we have left.
yeah, I could do that. I'll put that on pinned tweet.
Cool. Well, I
Because
put that Twitter handle in the chat. So if anyone's interested in checking this out. It's really fun. It's fun to check out what they're doing and follow the discussion, because it is robust. These guys chat a lot about these films, so definitely check it out.
And argue about minor points.
Yeah,
Minor points.
absolutely minor points. And we'll have random trivia in there too sometimes. But we did tonight's Tremors 6, tomorrow's Tremors 7, which just came out last week. It's already on Netflix.
Already on Netflix. It's beautiful.
I can't believe there are that many. Yeah, check it out because it's really fun, and that's what Twitter's for, right? Just arguing about all the little tiny things. Thanks, Chuck. It has been really fun. I had a blast. So thanks for coming on, you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm glad we could do this passion project, and I'm glad that we got participation, because horror movies are so polarizing, I think. And so it's a lot of people just shy away from even wanting to be a part of a discussion. So I'm glad we got some good discussion going in the comments.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And thanks, Tony, for sharing your passion with us today.
Yes, I will always talk about scary movies. If you just come up to me, ask me about the last one I saw, I will talk your ear off about it. So
awesome.
That might be a warning or an invitation, depending on how you see it.
You hear that? You can approach Tony at any point and try to talk to him about scary movies. If you do it in a jump scare, it's meta, and he'll be okay with it.
Right.
Once we're back at the Prague, when I'm up in the pit, if you want to just come up in the middle of the show, we'll have a little conversation.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Later this week, I think Saturday, we've got our holiday unboxing party. So that's the next thing on the old DHI agenda. So come by, check that out, and we hope to see you soon at another DHI event, if not Saturday. Thanks, everybody. See you later.